Imagine a time when Europe was gripped by religious fervor. The air was thick with the scent of incense and the sound of prayers echoed through the stone walls of grand cathedrals. People from all walks of life were united by a common faith, a faith that would soon drive them to take up arms. In the 11th century, the Pope called for a holy war. This was not just any war, but a divine mission, a sacred duty to reclaim the Holy Land. This was the First Crusade. Knights and peasants alike heeded the call, leaving their homes and families behind. Its goal was to reclaim Jerusalem, the holiest city in Christendom, from Muslim rule. Thousands answered the call, driven by a mix of piety, adventure, and the promise of eternal salvation. They journeyed east, driven by faith and the promise of glory. The road was long and perilous, fraught with dangers both seen and unseen. The First Crusade was a success. Against all odds, the Crusaders managed to capture Jerusalem. The Crusaders captured Jerusalem in 1099. The city, sacred to Christians, Muslims, and Jews, was now under Christian control. They established Crusader states in the Holy Land. These states became a new frontier for Christendom, but they were also a constant target for Muslim forces. However, the Muslims were determined to regain their lost territories. They saw the Crusaders as invaders, and were resolute in their efforts to reclaim their lands. The next century was marked by almost constant warfare. Battles raged across the Holy Land, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The Second Crusade, launched in response to the fall of a Crusader state, ended in failure. The Crusaders were unable to recapture the lost territory, and their forces were decimated. By the late 12th century, the Muslim world was uniting under a powerful new leader. His name was Saladin. He was a man of great vision and determination. Saladin was a brilliant military strategist and a devout Muslim. His leadership inspired his followers and struck fear into the hearts of his enemies. He rose to become Sultan of Egypt and Syria. Under his rule, the Muslim forces became more organized and formidable. Saladin posed a grave threat to the Crusader states. His military campaigns were relentless and strategically brilliant. He vowed to drive the Crusaders out of the Holy Land. His resolve set the stage for a new chapter in the history of the Crusades. The year is 1187. The world stands on the brink of monumental change. Tension hangs heavy in the air. The fate of nations and the future of the Holy Land are at stake. The Kingdom of Jerusalem, the most important Crusader state, is in peril. Its walls, once symbols of strength, now seem fragile. Saladin, at the height of his power, has amassed a formidable army. His forces are disciplined, his strategy impeccable. His objective to crush the Crusaders and reclaim the Holy Land for Islam. His ambition knows no bounds. On the Crusader side, Guy of Lusignan, the King of Jerusalem, faces a momentous decision. His leadership is under scrutiny. He knows Saladin's army is on the move. He must respond decisively. The weight of history rests on his shoulders. Should he remain within the safety of his fortified cities or risk everything on a decisive battle in the open field? The stakes couldn't be higher. Guy summons his barons for council. They argue amongst themselves, each with their own vision of victory and survival. Time is of the essence. Every moment lost could mean the difference between triumph and disaster. Each passing hour brings Saladin's forces closer. The tension mounts with every step they take. Guy opts for a risky strategy. He decides to confront Saladin head-on, a gamble that could change everything. He chooses to march his army across the arid plains of Galilee. The journey is treacherous, the heat unbearable. His objective to relieve the besieged city of Tiberias. The city's fate hangs in the balance. Little does he know, this decision will seal the fate of the Crusader kingdom. The road to Hattin is paved with uncertainty and peril. The Crusaders, weighed down by their armor and supplies, advance slowly under the scorching summer sun. Thirst becomes their tormentor. Saladin's light cavalry harasses them relentlessly. Hit-and-run tactics chip away at the Crusaders' morale. The trap is closing. Saladin intends to lure the Crusaders into a decisive battle. He chooses his battlefield carefully. The arid plateau near the twin peaks of Hattin. The Crusader army is parched and exhausted. They are surrounded by Saladin's forces. Section 4. Thirst and Defeat. The horns of Hattin loom over the battlefield, silent witnesses to the unfolding carnage. The sun beats down mercilessly on the thirsty, exhausted Crusaders. The Muslim army, well supplied and energized, presses its advantage. Saladin's archers rain arrows down on the Crusader ranks. The Crusader knights, their movements hampered by thirst and heat, struggle to maintain formation. Panic starts to set in. The Crusader charge, desperate but futile. Saladin's forces hold firm. The Crusaders, their formations broken, are now easy prey. The Muslim army sweeps in for the kill. The Crusader army, once the terror of the Holy Land, is routed. Section 5, The Horns of Hattin. King Guy's army is shattered. Many knights fight to the death rather than surrender. A few escape the carnage. Guy himself is captured. The true cross, the holiest relic of Christendom, falls into Muslim hands. It is a devastating blow to the Crusader cause. The Battle of Hattin was a massacre. It was a turning point in the Crusades. Section 6, Aftermath and Consequences. News of the defeat at Hattin spreads like wildfire through the Crusader states. Panic sets in. City after city falls to Saladin's triumphant army. Jerusalem, the crown jewel of the Crusader kingdom, falls in October 1187. The loss of Jerusalem sends shockwaves through Europe. It leads to calls for a new crusade. The Third Crusade, led by Richard the Lionheart of England, manages to recapture some territory. Jerusalem, however, remains in Muslim hands. The Crusader states are reduced to a precarious foothold along the Levantine coast. Section 7, The Legacy of Hattin. Hattin was more than just a military defeat. It was a turning point that altered the course of history in the Holy Land. It was a symbolic catastrophe that shattered the myth of Crusader invincibility. The Crusaders, who had once seemed unstoppable, were now vulnerable. The loss of Jerusalem and the True Cross dealt a blow to Christian morale in the Holy Land and in Europe. The True Cross, a revered relic, was a symbol of divine favor, and its capture was a devastating psychological blow. The Battle of Hattin marked the beginning of the end of the Crusader kingdom. The once formidable Crusader states began to crumble under the pressure of relentless Muslim advances. Although the Crusades would continue for another century, the Crusaders would never again achieve the same level of power and influence they held before Hattin. Their territories dwindled, and their influence waned. The memory of Hattin serves as a reminder of the human cost of religious conflict. It stands as a testament to the lives lost and the dreams shattered by war. It reminds us that even the most devout beliefs can lead to terrible bloodshed. The legacy of Hattin is a somber reflection on the consequences of fanaticism and the enduring impact of historical events on our present and future.